Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Smite Super Regionals. My name is Rainday, and I'm joined by Toli and Taco, my experts for today. We're excited to get going back into the group stages. And, of course, Flashpoint versus Allegiance will be the next game on the docket for today. I know we're excited. There's a lot of great players on both teams. And before we get into any other matchups, let's take a trip to the Solo Dolo YOLO lane. Toli, talk to us about CycloneSpin versus Benji.
This is going to be a very interesting matchup. Both of these players are very aggressive. Benji's been known to kind of stand out in Season 2 towards the end of it, where he's been winning matchups where he wasn't supposed to, like winning Guan Yu versus Hades initially against when he was formerly on Enemy before, against TSM when he actually won that set. So doing a great job there. And now it's going to be against CycloneSpin, who was on the steadily decline at Season 2, so now he's trying to kind of make a name for himself yet again. So we could see a lot of fireworks in the solo lane matchup, although we do see a little bit of technical difficulty. If he plays like that, more power to him.
Yeah, dude, that's just the way they do it nowadays. That's what all the kids are doing.
One thing that I find really interesting, though, about Benji is just I know from behind the scenes sources that he and Cyclone definitely are two colliding forces. They don't really have a whole lot of respect as far as gameplay is concerned for each other, so I'm definitely expecting sparks to fly in this matchup. I am expecting, mostly on Benji, for him to just keep... He loves being aggressive. Cyclone, if he doesn't respect the solo laners, he tends to do the same thing, so I think we're going to see a lot of solo lane damage coming out early on.
That's been the reoccurring theme for a lot of solo laners back in my days, is like you just don't show any sort of respect to the other opposition. If they're trying to back in front of your face, then you just kind of stop it in any way that you can. Obviously, you don't want to be too reckless about it and start diving to tower line about it, but like if they're going to try to taunt you or not, you got to give them the big old Sobek club in the face.
Ooh. CycloneSpin, I don't know if he's up to snuff. His screen looks like it's just normal there. He doesn't have the 60-degree turn that Benji was pulling off, but he does look to be confident. And again, it's a very subtle, but it's an in-game confidence. He's a quiet dude. When you actually run into CycloneSpin, I saw him at TwitchCon. I've seen him here. He's not a loud, outspoken person unless probably he's pretty comfortable with you. But in-game, he speaks very loudly. A lot of the question for Allegiance has been they have a lot of loud personalities. Which one are they going to allow to carry the game? We can take a look at the junglers as well. Obviously, Weekend, one of those big personalities. He likes things going in a certain way. Talk to me about that jungle matchup with, of course, Weekend and Homiefe.
So the way Weekend likes to orchestrate his tools to his disposal, being either CycloneSpin or MLC Stealth, is dependent on what kind of theme that Allegiance is going for. Do they want to get a significant matchup for CycloneSpin, or do they want to make MLC Stealth feel as comfortable as possible, depending on what god he elects to go? So I'm really curious to see how Weekend starts off, because they've made this all-star superstar team to be able to win the gauntlet. They took 3 members from Envious, you know, still keeping Weekend, still keeping MLC Stealth, and now they're in this position where they could play to their former strengths, where Weekend camped the soul lane and CycloneSpin, getting further ahead, where sometimes CycloneSpin would be playing the assassin, and as a result, he would just snowball that lane so hard where he would start out-rotating his opposition and then looking for these team fights.
I think more so than anything, ALG are probably going to stick to their original mindset that they've always seemed to have fallen back on, and that's making sure to just have MLC on a comfort pig, and additionally on top of that, just make sure to have the setup ready and available for MLC. We saw earlier today, though, Oceans is definitely coming to play. He was a pretty devastating factor on that on her, so I'd imagine teams are probably going to be a little bit more cognizant of that and try and orient themselves appropriately.
Sometimes he's been known to be very offensive, Oceans, and make the rotational plays, but that last game against Dignitas, he was very defensive. He knew when to utilize his cooldowns and be very careful about surviving any sort of aggressive initiations by the opposition. So now, though, heading into the mid matchup, though, Hurriwind on your screen there, he's definitely been another one of these interesting personalities that's been coming from SOAR previously, trying to redeem himself after the removal.
Well, it's it's redeeming, but it's also proving, right? It's saying that I shouldn't have been kicked in the first place. I've been wronged almost. And in many ways, I think his opposition in the lane, MLC Stealth, he feels wronged too. He mentioned in his own personal words, it's not fair. It's not fair that everyone else is on the winning team. I haven't found that success yet. I know he wants it. I know this is the team they put together to try and do it. Both of them with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. Which chip is bigger? Which chip's gonna crumple the other, basically?
I would say that MLC's is wanting to go back to Worlds because he's had a taste of it twice already, winning the first one, falling to Epsilon back in the Season 2, so he wants to make his third appearance.
Yeah, I also think that personally, I feel as though Hurriwind seems and approaches people more with a I have to prove myself, because not necessarily so much that MLC isn't regarded as a highly talented player, but I think that that's like quite the opposite of how people tend to view Hurriwind in the pro scene. He's always kind of been regarded as, oh yeah, that's just another mid laner. That guy's definitely easy to take care of. But MLC, on the other hand, people always, like, even though he wasn't in the highest of regards in the pro scene for a bit, the community still viewed him as, hey, MLC, that guy's got a really good Scylla. You know, he's just somebody who has established himself, so he's trying to prove himself more so in the way that I'm still a top dog. Hurriwind, however, he's just trying to get to the I am a dog in, like,
yes.
just
I am a dog? That's what he wants to get to? He's playing Smite. He doesn't want to be.
I might have skipped a word there.
Maybe he'll play some Fenrir in mid lane. Who knows?
That's
He
right.
wants to be a dog, right?
I am a dog, damn it. I'm picking Fenrir. Here he is, video. We see the Hunter matchup going on too. How do you think he's going to play in for Flashpoint? He had a lot of kills going into the group stage. After the group stage, we actually looked at some of the stats, and let's see if we actually have them here. We just might. He was one of the top hunters with 56 kills in that group stage. I think only Funballer had the most. Barracuda actually had a little bit more than him, so 60 and 62 respectively for those two hunters. But he was definitely ready to get kills. Is he going to bring out that kind of nature for today?
Vetium is definitely one of those silent hunter killers where he will just wait for the right opportunity to make a play, and when he does make a play, you will see it. He demands and commands a lot of respect once he gets into these team fights. It's not somebody that you can take lightly.
He reminds me a bit of Ataraxia, even in the sense that he won't necessarily look for the 1v1 engagement in lane or even in, like, the team fighting aspect, but he's somebody who's very smart about his positioning, and he always ensures that he's going to be able to utilize his kit for whatever hunter he's playing to its max potential. And I think that's one thing that makes him a really potent factor when it comes to team fighting for his team.
I mean, it's always impressive whenever you can solo Zapman, right?
Yeah. I mean, sure.
It's not that bad, right? I mean, like, it's funny because you
Yeah.
get soloed, you make worlds, and then, like, before you're trying to make the play and you fail. But either way, his opposition, Vetium, is going to be Oceans on Allegiance. Another one of these players that has been one of these
Haven't seen him a lot on camera
these
either.
oiled wheels, I guess you can
That's
say,
right.
such that Drelo has pointed out to us there.
Yes.
But great mechanical player, makes the rotations when necessary, and this is what's important for Allegiance right now. They rely very heavily on their core between their support, middle, and jungle. Once CycloneSpin starts rotating to these team fights, once Oceans gets there as well, then Allegiance, that's where they truly shine.
Yeah, you can tell that the past team environment that they shared together has definitely transitioned over into Allegiance, in my personal opinion. I think that Oceans works pretty soundly around Cyclone and PolarBearMike, especially whenever they get into the team fight engagements. And so I just think it's crucial that as long as Weekend is ensuring that Oceans is safe, they're probably going to get the damage that they need from him in order to help secure kills alongside of MLC Stealth.
It did look like he was feeling good. I couldn't tell whether it was just I'm kind of nervous, so I'm smiling all the time, or if he and PBM really feeling confident, relaxed about this win. Going into it, it seemed like ALG, obviously with one of the only opportunities now from the teams that have played to go 2-0. Are they feeling good in terms of their ability to take out their counterparts in this matchup? I mean, they seem to have. Look at Weekend. He's smiling as well. They feel ready. It looks like.
I
It's a
feel like
happy team.
Allegiance is definitely ready because they were in a losing position actually against Dignitas at one point, but they were able to bring it back. So if they had that early game lead, I would expect them to be able to close it out very effectively. And Weekend is one of these players that will definitely try to look for any early game plays, trying to put his team in a position to close it out.
Yeah, you'll notice that Weekend isn't necessarily the kind of hunter where he's going to look to greedily farm for himself yourself, a lot of hunters tend to just be a bit more selfish as far as trying to advance their own level so that way they can feel like more of a key component during team fights. Weekend, on the other hand, his entire mindset is based on getting his teammates ahead. So if it means taking a little bit of a disadvantage in the jungle and losing a little bit of farm so that he'll be a level or two behind, he really does not care. As long as his team looks good, then he's feeling good.
And this is why he has such a diverse god pool. You know, he's been very infamously known as the 667 on the Odin play. It was, you know, even pulling out gods such as Kumbhakarna, very wow, and the Khepri even every now and then. This is something that Weekend has been known to do time and time again. From a Legion side of things, also he's been pulling out the Mercury recently. I think it was during the Gauntlet stage, was it? When MLC Stealth also went to Kukulkan. So a lot of diversity between Weekend and MLC Stealth.
A lot of diversity is many people may or may not know in terms of the casual scene or new viewers watching. The direction of where your jungle decides to apply pressure can make such a big difference in the laning phase. Where is Weekend looking to apply that pressure that we've seen him do so famously on that 667 Odin, but maybe on some other gods as well? Is it the solo lane? Is he looking to help CycloneSpin get ahead like he did before, or is he maybe switching it to the duo, camping mid a lot? What do you think?
In the beginning of his Smite professional career, he was heavily leaning on that solo lane to get CycloneSpin ahead, but now as he's matured a little bit, he's tried to transition that elsewhere. Before in the past with Envious back in the day, he used to switch it up to help out Allied, his former hunter, in the duo lane, but now with Allegiance, he's been catering heavily around MLC Stealth, and I expect that to continue throughout this group play.
What about you, Taco?
I wouldn't be surprised to see him try and orient a little bit more pressure towards that solo lane, not necessarily to help out Cyclone, but more so just to punish Benji, because Benji most likely is going to over-aggress Cyclone a bit, and if Cyclone can bait it appropriately, then Weekend can definitely be there to capitalize on Benji's mistakes and potentially even look to get his team ahead from the solo lane.
Well, if Weekend's number one, then Allegiance is number one as well, and that's the whole plan for them, as they're going to be able to try to get their second point so far against Flashpoint. It's been a four-way split between Luminosity, Allegiance, Dignitas, and Orbit, all of them having 1 point each. Sanguine, having played 2 games so far, come away with 0 thus far.
Benji looks like he's almost got that monitor back to normal. It seems like the new age way of playing didn't really fit for so long, so he seems to be almost ready to go here with picks and bans. We are just seeing the two teams, again, just looking at it. Benji, they all look on the side of, you know, not as comfortable as ALG. You know, it's a mentality thing. Moving into the picks and bans, I wonder if this will have an impact in where they decide to go, whether it's a safer route, maybe it's more conservative, or maybe they try something a little flashy.
So there's advantages and disadvantage for making it to the semifinals. Now, against such a prestige opponent as Team Eager, losing to them 1-3, it gives a little bit of a hit to your morale. So this is why we see Flashpoint looking a little bit down and out, whereas Team Allegiance, they've been waiting for this opportunity the whole time, coming from the Gauntlet. They've been able to see what Flashpoint have been able to do in the past, and now coming off of their victory earlier on against Dignitas, now they have a little bit of an advantage in this set.
Yeah, you can tell that Flashpoint's definitely looking a bit more solemn in their behavior in comparison to ALG, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think of it as them being nervous or scared by any means. I think they just want to show that they're taking this as seriously as possible, because they still want to make sure that they're putting themselves in a good enough mindset to where they can make sure to compete with ALG coming off of the momentum from their first win of the day.
You could tell that this set right here between Allegiance versus Flashpoint is heavily contested between the Guardians already. Allegiance prioritizing Athena while banning away the Sobek and the Bacchus away from Shadowq. I really like this idea because Shadowq is one of these players that really want to be aggressive from the get-go.
It's not even that. I also agree that with that aspect alone, but I think as well they just want to take away the Bacchus and Sobek. That way they can potentially look for a Ra composition, because Ra is definitely still out there on the table, and it's not something that ALG is unfamiliar with by any means. I think that MLC, it'd be a pretty solid pocket pick for him to come out with, but he's going to opt for the Scylla instead, which is pretty understandable.
It makes sense why Flashpoint respond instantly with this Raijin Nemesis. If PolarBearMike go in, we're going to see these double ultis coming from Flashpoint just to be able to lock that target down as quickly as possible. But if they take too long, we're going to see the I'm a Monster during the taiko drums coming from Hurriwind because of how immobile he is during that ultimate.
Yeah, that's one thing that I do find interesting, that how heavily Flashpoint tend to prioritize this Raijin. We know that it's a comfort pick for Hurry, but at the same time, I would have ideally liked to see him withhold that pick potentially for later on in the draft rather than revealing it so early on, to give MLC such a easy opportunity for him to try and counterplay it with the Scylla ultimate.
Ra was available. This is something that we've seen time and time again, that where Hurriwind, he wants to get this mid pressure, and Raijin alone is definitely good for that, but Nemesis not so much. So this is why we're going to see that all-in strategy. But now locking in the Guan Yu, which could potentially go to Benji, could go also to Shadowq, depending on what other hunter they pick up here.
Yeah, and another interesting aspect as well is that with Nemesis and Guan Yu alone, there is a lot of chase potential already coming out on the side of Flashpoint, and so it'll be really interesting to see whether they choose to prioritize the Nemel into the Athena or Erlang, and I think that's going to mostly be determined by whoever is trying to be the initiating factor on the side of ALG.
If I'm Allegiance here, I'm definitely banning Amaterasu. Benji is one of these players that really relies heavily on his Vamana, on his Amaterasu, but here with the Nemesis and Guan Yu, that mobility that Ama would provide you with her aura is not something you just want to give away for free.
No, especially not with how comfortable Benji is known on it, and the fact that he's able to still assert lane pressure, even though Emma is not necessarily the strongest solo lane pick when it comes to the laning phase. He knows the god well enough to where he knows his boundaries with it, and I think that it would just be a bit problematic if Flashpoint were able to secure it for their own draft.
But instead, we do see the Soul banned away. The Ravan, the Bacchus, and the Sobek on Allegiance will be the gods not played, as well as the Vamana, the Jingwei, the Janus, and the Terra. And like you mentioned, Toli, the Amaterasu gets selected for Benji on Flashpoint. How do Allegiance respond to this?
Well,
what does this mean in the game?
They already have Erlang Shen, which could easily flex between CycloneSpin and Weaken. Very aggressive god for both of their styles that they want to do, and depending on what their secondary option is to try to combo with that, they should be looking for some early aggression onto Benji's lane. Maybe even look for a level 1 invade straight up. Now Thor is available. That could be an option. Sometimes we see we can play Thanatos as well. That would be a very aggressive level 1 opening, but instead it's going to be Erlang Shen more than likely for Weaken, whereas it looks like CycloneSpin is heading towards that Sun Wukong.
Sun Wukong, I think, is also a pretty safe pick in general, but it looks like he would prefer the Odin, which is something that we do not get to see very often. And again, this could still technically be a flex pick, in all honesty. We're really not sure. We know that Weaken's going to be able to play either the Erlang or Odin, but I wouldn't be surprised if Weaken opted to go for this Odin, because I know a lot of solo laners, and I think Cyclone has even said it himself, he does not like that Odin solo lane matchup just because of the fact that I feel like most solos know how to abuse him in lane.
This could easily go to CycloneSpin as well, because against Amaterasu, obviously not being able to escape. So this is a very smart pick for Allegiance. There's 3 gods on Flashpoint that cannot escape with just their normal abilities. They're going to have to pick up a Phantom and get away from that.
As you see finally here, obviously the Rama will most likely be on Oceans on the side of Allegiance. Amaterasu and Neith selected as well. These are the teams going into this next game. Totally and Taco, we talked a lot about the in-depth strategies, but overall, as a composition, as an identity, who gets the better end of this draft?
I think that Allegiance have the better late game between the Scylla and the Ram, as long as they're able to consistently land those root crushes, as well as getting maximum value out of this Odin cage.
I think if they get the maximum value out of the Odin cage, then this will definitely look to go into Allegiance's favor, but at the same time, should they mess up their all-in ordeal, Flashpoint can definitely run away with it.
Hurriwind trying to prove himself. This could be one of his last opportunities. Weaken could be on that Odin. The 667 memes may be rolling out. Casters, it's your time to cast the action. Allegiance, Flashpoint starts now.
Definitely a possibility we could see the 667 on Odin and Weaken, but I don't think it will be this game, let's be honest. However, is it Erlang Shen or Athena for Weaken here?
I mean, I think it would make sense to put the Athena. I think it has a little bit better synergy with the Scylla. You're already roaming around. If you gank the right-hand side, you can ultimate over to the speed buff. The only thing I don't like about this is really PolarBearMike, and it's you know, we haven't really seen him play too much Erlang Shen, but his Athena is his best god by far. I don't see him play a better god than Athena.
It is true, and we saw PolarBearMike earlier on. He played the Terror. His positioning is what caused a couple of issues for Allegiance there in that last game they played against Dignitas, I believe. But now, you know, they're sorry, Sanguine, not
Sanguine,
Dignitas. Yep. That's going to be later on this weekend as well. But yeah, right now he's going to be playing on the Erlang Shen, and this Erlang Shen is going to be a little bit more aggressive in the laning phase here, looking to put pressure onto Neith and a Guan Yu. Now, it's definitely late wave clear advantage, I want to say, is actually kind of even here.
I mean, you know, the Athena, or excuse me, the Erlang, just like any warrior, very fast at clearing, but Guan Yu's going to be able to group up the minions. I mean, you have a Neith. You got to give the slight edge to them here. But Oceans, I mean, that kid was absolutely insane earlier. I mean, his plays against Frostiak, when Frostiak on that Ratatosker kept diving him and just the impale into the wall. And I was actually talking about it where, you know, you always love the Jingweis, you know, hyper carries like that, but I would never want Oceans on that. I like seeing Oceans on hers and Ho-Yi's, gods that can go aggressive, where he can just mechanically outplay opponents.
And Rama can kind of do the same thing too, but he scales so much better than an Amher into the later stages of the game. And let's be honest, if you can have a threat like that, it's going to be a real good boon for Allegiance going into this game. And when we look at the compositions here, Adonis, as well, and the actual teams, normally we like to go back to, well, they've played against each other before, but this is a new Allegiance roster.
It's really hard to just say anything about old Allegiance in relation to this group. I mean, they beat Dignitas. It was pretty strong. You know, a couple questionable things, but we've actually seen that a lot in these group stages so far, where really a lot of timidness from these teams. I mean, they know this is their last chance at Worlds, and every single game is going to matter.
Well, backflip forced by Vetium there, but PolarBearMike get a little bit more poke than he would like to. Mike has gone for the Watcher's Gift start, and we've seen a couple of different variations of the Erlang Shen support in terms of Watcher's Gift.
Sometimes Death's Toll.
And this time around, it will be the Watcher, so he will be able to sustain up and keep that mana incoming.
And this is great for Oceans right now. He's doing a good job of keeping up pressure against a Guan Yu Neith. I mean, they should be dominating this pretty heavily, but PolarBearMike and Oceans doing a good job of not only out-clearing, but also putting on this pressure.
We saw the roll from Oceans there. He was really looking for the cripple onto Vetium, but Vetium's backflip was just up in time and got it off before the in-hand came through from Oceans there. So you can see the aggressiveness coming out from the dual lane right now. And it's all kind of set up for Scylla. We were saying this off air, and that's kind of the place that Allegiance have got here with the composition they've drafted.
I mean, you look at it, not even talking about the Odin. Ooh, CycloneSpin actually catches that dash. Could be trouble for Benji, but he doesn't have his cooldowns just used on the wave, but good poke. And not even talking about CycloneSpin's Odin, where they're going to have limited movement, but just the fact that you have this Erlang Shen and
Cyclone's back, and Benji's gonna die. He's waiting for his dash cooldown though, and if he can block it, Cyclone, it would be great, but I think Cyclone's just gonna be happy to win overall that trade there, realizing he wasn't gonna be able to stop it.
What was Benji doing there? I mean, he just sat at the edge of the tower against a bird bomb. I mean, yeah, he got out, but he very easily could have died there, and now Cyclone has the cage, and Benji's gonna just have to play this very far back.
And I say Cyclone's back because we've only ever seen him really play Odin 3 times in memory of
in the past year.
In the past year, and one of those times was against Omega, the famous Hercules versus Odin matchup that went down in history as Cyclone's like decline, I guess.
It was the end of the superstar Cyclone. Now, don't get me wrong, Cyclone is still amazing, an amazing player, but the meta shifted, you know, right around that time. Couldn't play Assassins anymore. He walks up. I think he bird bombed the wave against Omega's Hercules, pulled him, pushed him under tower, level 2. Never saw CycloneSpin hyper carry a game ever again. I mean, he gets some really good games, but it's never been the same.
Well, this time around, Benji will be able to dash in and clear the wave off what he was looking for last time when Cyclone managed to catch it. So that lane for the time being will be in Cyclone's favor with a small experience lead. The dual lane still continuing with the pressure with PolarBearMike staying in this lane for the time being.
I'd like to see Weekend try and pressure these buffs on the right-hand side simply because Benji was so poked out. He hasn't backed yet, and so he's going to be a little bit weaker. He's backing now, but they're just going to play it safe, grab their own buffs, and it's really about farming for this Scylla and Ram. That's this entire composition's goal, is to set up MLC Stealth and Oceans and for their mechanical skill to shine through.
And what better god to give MLC Stealth than Scylla? He's wearing the skin. He got himself
his jersey's on the back of the name.
Yeah,
I mean, or
his name's on the back. His jersey's on the back of the name.
Sorry. of mess up there, but his name's on the back of this Skins jersey. I mean, he is such a phenomenal Scylla player.
It's a dress, though.
I hope he doesn't go Blink this game. I really don't.
To be fair, I prefer Blink Scylla than I do Blink Giannis.
That's fair.
Because the Blink Sycamore that can hit 3 people could really turn a fight. These Raijin Harpies, though, about to spawn now. We can swing him around the back. Good pin. Set up from PolarBearMike into a Crush Hammer. Monster popped as well. Not a whole lot of damage to the drums of war from Hurriwind. Different story, however, but the heal for PolarBearMike comes through, and the ring is down.
Shadowq not going to be able to get out of this one. First blood going over to Weaken, and you could see a heavy investment into PolarBearMike. The Nemesis ult comes out. Hurriwind firing his shots, doesn't get all of them, but at the same time, just not enough. The shell, most importantly, was not burned until the Nemesis ult was burned, and then CycloneSpin just allowed to rotate in, find that cage, and nothing Shadowq can do at this point. And that's going to be the biggest issue for Flashpoint. Is we talked about how this comp is designed to set up Scylla with the Erlang Shen and the Athena, but then also, I mean, no one can really reliably get out of the cage outside of Hurriwind with his Thunder Crash.
So will we see a Phantom maybe come online then for this team?
I think you're going to need it, but we always see Phantoms, and they're not as effective as you would think. It's great in the moment, but I mean, once an Odin gets a little bit of CDR, his ult's already on a low cooldown, it's very easy to bait out the Phantom and then just go. You can have 2 or 3 more fights before it's back up.
I actually also think it's because it's one of the newer relics as well. A lot of teams haven't really played with it too much because there's not many reasons to get it other than Odin. And then when you do get it, you actually forget your teammate has it. So you don't even walk towards the edge of the Odin ring because you don't think you can get through it anyway.
It's also one of those things where you have to give up a team fighting relic slot for that, or something that will enable your jungler.
Yeah.
You have to get rid of a sprint. You know, you can't do a curse there, and those are so impactful for a relic that's only going to be up once every 3 fights. And you basically have to win that fight, because if their team is able to disengage, if ALG can just, bait that out and then back up, there's no response for them the next time they initiate.
I'm talking about that Odin a little bit more. It was Cyclone's rotation that got them the first blood there on to Weaken in the jungle.
Yes.
His rotation, his pressure that he got onto Benji in the solo lane paid off, and now Homiefe is going to get hit by the Armor Monster from Stealth. Good damage there. Shadowq zoned nicely, but Weaken #1 will pick up a kill, the second one of the game, but he will go down in trade.
Stealth backed out, but Cyclone rotates in with the teleport, finds 2. PolarBearMike is going to get to safety. Vetium finds him on the side, though.
And into the sky goes Oceans, but sadly his target's dead, so he'll put 3 rounds into the back of Vetium's head, and still continuing on his Cyclone. Cyclone wants to go to Worlds. He's trying to push this team forward. The Crush is going to force the backflip, which will cause the Bird Bomb to connect.
5-2. This has been an explosive match, and a great job by ALG overall.
Cyclone overall.
Weaken sacrificing himself, and this Odin pick has already paid its way. I mean, he found the first blood onto the Guan Yu, who can escape, and then again rotates in after an extended engagement that was 1-for-1, locks 2 people down, and this early, I mean, before Flashpoint can get these defensive items online to survive in the cage for its duration, they're going to kill them every single. I mean, you're seeing the damage the Bird Bomb's doing right now, the highest level in the game by 2 levels. CycloneSpin 3-0-1.
And this is where Odin hits his prime as well as around level 11. But hang on, right? Harpies are spawning again. Last time we saw it, that's where we got first blood. This time around, they don't want it.
Flashpoint realizes they can't take these fights. The last 2 have gone incredibly poorly for them. Trying to contest these mid Harpies is not the way to go. And I love Stealth's playstyle. We always see a lot of Scylla players so heavily rely on going for the reset. They hold their ults too long. The second a pin or a taunt hits, MLC Stealth is using I'm a Monster, and it's just for that burst of damage. He doesn't care about the reset. He just cares about getting them low enough and winning the fight.
And the big key here as well is there's no sanctuaries on the side of Flashpoint to avoid that damage if it does connect too. The purification is going to have to be forced, and he's still going to have to move out of the area from that. And Stealth knows that early game, the Armor Monster does decent damage, but it's not going to be the game winner at this stage.
Well, once you get it to about rank 3 is when you really start to feel it. Also, typically you'll see, a Doom Orb or, some other high burst item online that's going to be able to shred through. I think a Soul Reaver actually being started up by Stealth right now, and that's what's going to get scary. Once a Soul Reaver's up, I mean, Crush is such an easy ability to hit. The poke damage is going to be massive when the team's already doing a good job of poking out. I mean, look at that.
He's just going in right now. He's actually being really aggressive, using the Odin to the best of his ability too. Shadowq going to get hit by that taunt and just force him back for a second, but yeah, go back to Odin as we see another Bird Bomb hit, and now Benji's in trouble, forced to ult defensively, but Weaken is on his way.
And it's just going to be clean. I mean, I'm really surprised at Benji's positioning this game. It's been absolutely atrocious. We've seen Cyclone hit every single bird. Anytime we look over to the lane, Benji's 5 feet away from CycloneSpin and gets bird bombed. I mean, he's not even sitting into his movement speed aura and trying to have jukes to begin with.
Your Amaterasu, you expect against a bird bombing Odin to just sit back, relax, and not get bird bombed. And talking about that, there's another one. However, this time around, Cyclone's in a bit of trouble here. The World Weaver's on its way through. I believe it got blocked in the jungle there, which gives him up for 1 second.
Find it.
But Hurry had to commit too heavily.
And he's going to fall. There's the reset. No one else to hit. Nemesis back to base. Shadowq rotates over, but the fight's already gone, and he's going to use the Alma Monster, pick up an elemental or two.
Mike was like, do you need help with those?
And again, ALG are just being so aggressive across the map, and Flashpoint haven't really had time to sit there and recover because they've been moving from dual lane to solo to these mid-harpy fights. It's been non-stop action, and so they haven't had this time to calm themselves down and figure out a game plan. You saw what they were going for on that right-hand side. It's a pick composition from them with the Neith. They found the ult onto CycloneSpin, but Hurriwind's Taiku drums did nothing. I mean, you saw them hit for like 5 damage each.
And it was at still level 10 though, so it's still early game, just like a Scylla ultimate as well for the most part. One thing we didn't get to see on camera there, but you can see by the cooldowns that Vetium and Oceans did have a trade-off in the dual lane there that went in favor of Oceans overall. The World Weaver came in and it looks like Oceans did go aggressive in that lane and put some domination onto Vetium, pushing him back to the fountain, which allowed him to get a full wave into the tower.
And I mean, Oceans has been such a good player, and this is really good for Allegiance because we've seen Flashpoint not able to get these picks successfully both times they've tried it, and so heading into late game, I mean, if Allegiance are going to keep the lead and you didn't get anything off of this Neith pick with the World Weaver, once that ROM starts hitting level 20 or you know, getting a couple items online, he's just going to be hitting harder.
And this is the same sort of thing that we saw out of last game for Orbit as well. They drafted the Neith, but they were always kept in the back foot, so they could never utilize the World Weaver for early game pressure.
Right now, it's just going to be a stalemate, and Allegiance have slowed the game down. I think they're going to be looking for a Gold Fury relatively soon. You could see the Sentry Wards coming out in their inventory. Just going to try and get pressure on this, and I think it's going to be another pick on a Shadowq. I mean, if there's anyone you want to kill right now as Allegiance, it's Shadowq. He's so far behind. He has tank boots and tier 2 of either Spirit's Robe or Mantle of Discord. He's a relatively easy kill 11 minutes into the game. If you can get Cyclone over there, pick him off, that's a pretty easy Gold Fury.
And this is going back through this game, though, it's been picks and bans for me, and it comes down to the Odin. Was Odin going to perform? And Cyclone has really made it work.
Yes.
But that pick was because of the situation. There's a blink from Stealth. What a shock it was for a Sikkim, though. And a blink in trade of a purification, I'm okay with that.
I do agree with you. Blink Scylla is much better than
dangerous.
Blink Giannis. It is dangerous. Stealth does not have purification, and there are a number of stuns on Flashpoint that are going to be able to deal with him. This Gold Fury is started up. Teleport is not available for Cyclone,
up in the air, and Shadowq's in a bit of trouble there. Drums is forced by Hurriwind as well to zone away Allegiance from going aggressive onto him. However, with some of those ultimates going down and Ocean's getting poked out, Allegiance will fall back.
Yeah, and Oceans doesn't even go to get the wave there. Clearly, they were a little bit worried about the potential engage follow-up off of that. The ultimate down on the Raijin, though, leaves little kill chance for Flashpoint, so they're fine with Allegiance just backing off of this Gold Fury.
There's a Book of Toph coming out from MLC Stealth. They could have been the Soul Reaver. We never know which way he's going to go, but at this stage of the game, it's wise to get it now.
I subscribe to the best way of thinking. I think Soul Reaver is better than Thoth in almost every situation. Obviously, you're going to get more overall damage out of the Thoth, but it's really about that first round of abilities and hitting that extra percentage damage, that percentage true damage onto a target, especially when they are already so weak right now. There's not a lot of protections and defense built onto Flashpoint. Shadowq still on that tier 2 of Spirit's Robe.
I mean, I can understand it, but from my point of view, it's kind of like you're going to use the Sikkim first of all for the setup for the Crush, and the Sikkim is the one that's going to get the Soul Reaver proc and not the Crush that you'd like.
That's fine. It's still the same damage.
It's true for the most part. It does add up to the same thing. It just doesn't feel the same when you hit that Crush that's got the Soul Reaver effect in it as well.
Hey, late game Scylla, the Sikkim hits you for a whole lot as well. I mean, you're getting full comboed without I'm a monster half the time.
Where Benji was there, rotating to the backhand harpies of the Boys of Allegiance here. He had the pressure to do so. He could have got caught by Odin there, but there was no real rotation available, although Weaken is on the map again, and we saw how he's made an impact with the ultimate so far.
It's really risky against the Athena specifically, but that was just a timing thing coming out from Benji, recognizing that Cyclone had backed. He probably doesn't want to teleport in. And here comes the bait again on Gold Fury. This time, though, it's Sentry right on top of all of ALG.
And you saw Shadowq walk up, turn around again, and what he was trying to do is just trying to force the taunt out so he can get away. But it's going to be Allegiance starting up the Gold Fury. The burst is good. Shadowq immediately mounts up to force the reset of the Gold Fury. Meanwhile, Stealth is forced out from the Sentinel, but Mike has been caught.
Oh, he's dead. I'm a Monster connects onto Hurriwind. That's going to force the Raijin out for now, but ALG has disengaged. Cyclone teleports in, level 16 Odin. Very, very scary if you're Flashpoint to have Odin here because he's just picked up Wingblade. It's going to be hard to lock him down, and his damage
took a lot of
still very high.
Benji's going into with the double dash, following through Oceans, gets to the sky, but I'm pretty sure he's dead on land. And anyway, meanwhile on the backside is Hurriwind in a lot of trouble. Stealth is attached to him, and Stealth will pick up the kill and manage to get out towards mid lane, being chased down by Shadowq and Vetium.
And Weekend coming to CycloneSpin, trying to lock down Homiefe, who's just going to dash away. Overall, Flashpoint find 2, I believe, unanswered kills outside of Hurriwind in the end. Very sloppy fight, I think, from both teams. PolarBearMike getting a little bit caught, a little bit over-aggressive. Also, CycloneSpin, I mean, that cage should have been down right before Oceans hit the ground. I mean, that was such an easy escape for Oceans if CycloneSpin just puts the cage right on the edge of where he drops.
Benji gonna get cursed there and forced to run away, but gonna get Tawny back into danger again. PolarBearMike will have pin up soon, especially with Odin coming in too. Benji's gonna fall down here on the right-hand side, but the team of Flashpoint, they're doing the Gold Fury.
And Stealth is here to stop it. Flashpoint secure it. Homie very low though. Stealth, no, I'm a monster, used in the last fight to damage Hurriwind.
And that they will get the Gold Fury, which gives Flashpoint a way back into this game right now. The gold lead is still in favor of Allegiance as they look to invade the speed buff.
And Hurriwind's not going to be able to stop this. He just has to get back to tower. It's picked up for free there. And Benji overextended a little bit. I don't think the point was to bait Allegiance over to the right-hand side of the map, but it ends up working out. Benji's in a position where he doesn't really care about dying. He's still relatively close to Cyclone despite how poor their early laning phase went.
And there's so many mini-games in this game as well, Adonis, because from what I can tell, you've got Vetium versus Oceans here, right? And all Vetium's job is to make sure Oceans doesn't get ahead. Just keep him busy, keep him in that lane, and don't let him get ahead, because Oceans had a fantastic game earlier on. Meanwhile, you've got Stealth on Scylla versus Raijin, and that's the battle of the ultimates, because whoever ults second generally wins.
I think the ult fight always goes to Scylla in this matchup, because Raijin's so slow in his ult, and Scylla's ult is CC immune, and so if you ult at Scylla first and the Raijin goes up into his, it's a free hit onto the Raijin. On top of that, he's not going to be able to taunt you away. You also have increased movement speed, whereas Raijin a little bit locked in place.
That's true, but if at the same time as you're summoning the ult from Scylla, you could also take damage from Raijin.
That's
but
true.
You are right. I think you are correct with that, with Scylla having a slight edge over Raijin. So the minigames coming into play here for the most part, and at the same time, Homiefe on this Nemesis, one of his real go-tos for the season, not really found too much this game.
I mean, we've seen 2 attempted ganks from him. First was on the right-hand side, looking for PolarBearMike, doesn't go their way. Then again, he tried to gank Cyclone on the right. They do end up getting that kill, but they lose the trade 1 for 2 overall. And I think it's kind of the case where the picks aren't going well. I mean, Team Allegiance is doing too good of a job of being ready for the Nemesis ult. PolarBearMike saves his shell. He does not pop the shell until Nim has ulted, because he doesn't want those to get stolen away and make her tankier.
Well, the top 2 player damages are a Guardian and a Warrior on the side of Allegiance right now. We can zone in Shadowq, going to taunt him into a bit of a danger field, but it's mainly just to get the crush off for the left, and Harpies there that go the way of Allegiance.
And Allegiance have to back off. We saw CycloneSpin rotating, but not in a position. And Stealth, actually, right-hand side, Benji rotating over. Could have got picked off there, but Allegiance a little bit slow to go for it, obviously. Amaterasu very fast. Not the easiest thing to pick her off once she's at this point in the game.
The one thing that I've noticed is Athena is just so big between both these 2 teams. Like, both of them want the Athena.
Yes.
Shadowq loves playing Athena, and then when you look at Allegiance, you've got at least 2 players that are willing to play it.
and Weekend.
Yep.
Both want to get it. Red buff secured. PolarBearMike just scouting for now. Gold Fury not going to spawn for a couple minutes, but ALG still trying to catch Flashpoint as they rotate back into their lane. The pin off the mark. Shadow is going to get knocked up and just dashes quickly away from Stealth.
Yeah, a little bit of a delay of communication from Allegiance there. Obviously, if they would have found that knock-up into a root, it could have been a dangerous situation for Shadowq, but they find a win with the balls on the left-hand side. Didn't get the red buff, though. Vetium picked that up for himself, so those World Weavers will do a little bit more. I like interesting Vetium build, though, with the Devourer's Gauntlets. Normally we see a lot of Transcendence.
He does that a lot. He really loves the Devourer's Gauntlets on basically every god. I mean, it is a whole lot of power, and you do get lifesteal. It's going to make your abilities hit harder, most notably.
Is it harder than Transcendence, though, in terms of abilities hitting harder?
It's not as much physical power, but you do have the lifesteal aspect, which is nice.
Yeah.
Lifesteal's not very effective in fights anymore. Sometimes it can be, especially when you have an Aussie proc, but all it means is that when you back off, having Devourer's Gauntlets, you just need to find one camp, you basic attack it down, and you're back to full health.
Now, I'm looking at the composition from both teams. Obviously, we said Allegiance's game plan here is to get Stealth and Oceans going. Get them to the late game and frontline for them. Whereas Flashpoint, I guess it's about this stage, the midpoint where this composition really shines.
I agree. I think right now they have a better chance of picking people off than they did earlier. The only issue is that Hurriwind's so far behind. I mean, you really, in this composition, you really need the Raijin to do a whole lot of damage, and it's hard to also pick people off because of how well PolarBearMike is playing around his relics. Again, just waiting for the Nim to ult before he pops his shell.
And you can see on the player dimension there on the left-hand side, Hurriwind and Stealth close towards the bottom at the moment. That will change as time goes on. The Book of Thoth has been finished there for Hurriwind in the mid lane as well. As PolarBearMike, awkward position, but he's trying to get into a great spot to set up his boys.
Stealth standing on the backside. There comes the shell. PolarBearMike going to be fine for now.
Also
getting the damage reduction. I'm a monster. Off the mark. I think it was the DR not allowing the taunt from Mike to be as long as intended.
CycloneSpin is here, as is Benji. The bird bomb, the ring is on 3. But where's the follow-up damage? It was all invested
Shadow,
elsewhere.
use your ghost.
Benji's actually going to ult onto Cyclone, and Cyclone's trying to get out now instead of going back in.
And here comes the snipes. Homie getting low, but he has the shield and the body blocks on the weekend, trying to make it. But Hurriwind thunder crashes into the tower.
So risky. It's going to cost his sanctuary, though, but he stands tall for now. Ocean's beaten back under his tower by Benji as well. So the whole fight in the end goes the way of Flashpoint. They will get the left-hand Harpies as well, and Gold Fury is a threat.
PolarBearMike doesn't want to give these up for free. I mean, Allegiant's not in a good spot to stop this, and this is going to be a Gold Fury at the very least attempt. In that fight, though, Shadowq was running against the cage for 3 seconds before he realized he had Ghost.
And it didn't work out well. It worked out well for Shadowq and the boys. Anyway, they get the kill, and here's the Gold Fury looking to steal it away. Our Allegiance now, but they're investing onto Oceans, who's forced his Sanctuary. The Tallow Assault is shredding, and Vetium will pick it up with the damage. Next up on the list is towards CycloneSpin, but he's going to be very tanky and hard to bring down.
They got a pick, but they have delayed it. Weaken's going to be spawning. His ult's not up just yet. I'm surprised that ALG are trying to stop this at all, especially against a Guan Yu, who's going to be able to keep the team healthy. There's no ults up for ALG, and Stealth is going to be forced out of this too.
And the Gold Fury's reset as well. They commit onto Mike instead. Thunder crashing again from Hurriwind, but the ring is dropped on 3. Hurriwind, however, will pick up PolarBearMike. However, the reinforcements have arrived in Weaken. So once again, there's 3 members of Allegiance here.
Benji's going to be fine at this point in the game unless he gets rooted out by Stealth under tower, and Benji, big play from him, finds the 2-man stun and has his team around the corner for safety. Absolutely zero reason for ALG to contest that Gold Fury in the first place. They had 0 ults, Weaken was dead, and Flashpoint were full health from the Guan Yu heals, and they paid for it. I mean, that easily could have been just an even game. Give up the Gold Fury, 20 minutes in, we already had the lead. Just give it up. That's all they had to do, and this would have been an even game. Instead, now they've given Flashpoint kind of this window back into it, and a couple of them hitting level 20 off that. Hurriwind, I think, probably explosively blew up in levels. He was actually down 3 just a few minutes ago, now matching Stealth.
Well, the funny thing is as well, we were just talking about how the mid game is in Flashpoint's favor if they can get there, and that fight kind of shows what can happen. And one thing a lot of people have said, a lot of the NA pros as well, was Benji on this Amaterasu here, one of his very good go-to gods. Benji's been said as to be either he'll hard carry the game or do nothing. Right now, after those couple of plays, it's showing that he's kind of stepping up.
It was weird because he was playing so poorly in the laning phase, but he's playing these team fights so well. And this soul lane dynamic is interesting. Obviously, Odin had that big edge in the early game, right? He got off a lot of damage onto Benji in the laning phase, was able to come up with some clutch cages to find a couple kills at the mid Harpies, but now his damage is falling off. We saw the Ghost be incredibly useful for Shadowq, and it's just an Amaterasu late game who brings so much damage and control.
Right, and Harpies being contested again. Allegiance looking to take them away, but having to back up away to safety for the time being there. Nothing up in the jungle for either team to really take, so it's kind of a dance-off right now and just farm up. But Benji rotating towards mid lane for a second. I thought they may have been thinking about something.
And ALG just playing a little bit more passively. PolarBearMike, before he was doing a good job of staying alive, but now that there's more damage online for Flashpoint, they've picked up some of these big items like Jotun's Wrath, working on Obsidian Shard for Raijin.
It's more like now that the mid-game's hit and they've lost that team fight, they've got to sit back now, wait for Stealth to hit full build, and wait for Oceans.
You can just see how scared they are. Left-hand side, Oceans forced to Purify and Sanctuary. His ult is up, and this is buying him enough time for Weekend to rotate in, but he's caught on landing.
Drums of War awaiting. They will roll away from them, however, and that will allow a good situation, but Stealth is in an awkward one because Homie's still going in. The ring comes into play from Cyclone, and the disengage comes on.
That's
however,
unfortunate.
Tier 1 tower goes the way of Flashpoint.
Shadowq also burned Ghost there, which he really didn't need to do. He was the only one in the cage, and ALG were backing off. So this is good. I mean, next time that ultimate from CycloneSpin comes up, there's going to be no answer from Flashpoint. But the issue is, by the time that happens, they're going to be stripped of a lot of towers, and Flashpoint likely to buy some big boy late game items.
Talking about towers, here's a tier 1 on the right hand side being looked at. PolarBearMike here on his own at the moment, but flanking around the back is Cyclone, is Weaken, and on the way is Oceans and Stealth too. This could be an awkward spot for Flashpoint as they're looking to deal with PolarBearMike. Reinforcements have arrived. Where's the ring from Cyclone? We're waiting for it to be dropped to the right moment. Benji's popping the ultimate right now, and now he's surrounded, gets hit in place, and he's not going to get any more help from Flashpoint.
Great focus from Allegiance there. A 4-man grouping after a taunt from Weaken allows the Bird Bomb to connect, a lot of poke damage, and they just watched everyone on Flashpoint back but Hurriwind. 2 people knocked up on that.
You do know Cyclone still has his ultimate as well taken into account, so Hurriwind's going to be very careful here.
So is Stealth.
I'm a monster! Nice and early, Allegiance get the Fire Giant, and now Hurriwind is forced out.
Cyclone jumped in, didn't recognize Homie had rotated. Might have been able to get picked up there, but no ultimate online for Homiefe. Instead, they're going to let Cyclone walk out, not risk anything. Ooh. ALG down a little bit in gold, but they've got FG around their waist.
Big important FG that for anything else. I mean, it was Flashpoint that grouped up for the tier 1 tower on the right-hand side there. Vetium stayed on the left-hand side. Did get the tier 1 that side, though. But that's what Flashpoint were looking to do, is try and split the boys of Allegiance up and try and get some extra objectives.
I mean, it looked like a good push. I mean, it was only PolarBearMike, but I don't believe Flashpoint had any wards on the right side of the map, and that was their main issue. They didn't see Weekend, Cyclone, and MLC Stealth rotating over. Stealth actually not even needing that ult to confirm Benji is the most surprising thing to me. That's a lot of the damage coming out of ALG right now, besides Oceans, is just Stealth's kit.
So what do you want to see with Cyclone now as this game continues? Because obviously he's not on an Odin. He's now pretty much full build as well. But we always talk about how Odin, in the late stages of the game, those bird bombs won't make as much of an impact in terms of damage. And you'll see that against waves as well.
He just needs to be a frontliner along with Weaken, just looking for the opportune cages. He could also potentially play more of a backline style, but that should probably be Mike instead. Let Weaken kind of look for the taunts, let MLC Stealth get his damage off, and then CycloneSpin just be there to drop the cage when he's got a couple members who can't escape.
We'll see how it works out for him then. PolarBearMike is deep in enemy territory right now, clearing out wards, controlling the Gold Fury pit with the Fire Giant on the side of Allegiance. However, this should be relatively free. There's no reason for Flashpoint to try and contest.
And they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop it at all. Flashpoint just giving it up. Basically what Allegiance should have done earlier, but it's okay. Allegiance ended up winning that fight on the right-hand side.
Look at Stealth's build, though.
Actually, Flashpoint just back, so this is going to be a free tier 1 as well.
Yeah.
And if I'm Allegiance, I'm actually not trying to take a fight ever here. With this Fire Giant, all I want to do is knock down all these towers. There's so much gold on the map for them to take without really needing to force anything.
Homiefe's hanging around that left-hand side there. You could just see him, but unfortunately, the whole team of Allegiance are piling through, so they won't stop them there. They will give up the tier 1 tower on the left-hand side by the looks of it for the time being. I'm pretty sure Flashpoint want to hold their tier 2s, though, just by the positioning they showed in the mid lane.
And that's fine. Just take the tier 1s, try and get someone to back. Actually, a couple members were starting to back. You saw Flashpoint starting to back there, but they canceled it because ALG were too close.
Well, I was mentioning Stealth has rushed a runner to Hootie next as well, so his damage is starting to go up. He's level 20, so the Armor Monster has the extra damage involved on it too, and that will make a lot of issues. Let's have a listen into Allegiance as they try and take this tier 2.
Okay, so look, let me taunt. If I taunt a tank, just look to poke and run away. Like, don't look to me. Look to poke, run away. If I taunt a squishy and you do a fuck ton of damage, probably do the same. Let's force him off this now. Don't taunt. You don't have to. Yeah. Hit it. Get up. Back up. Go on.
I'm not KJ.
Okay. We're fine. That's fine. Take the trade.
My thing to look for is...
Yeah. He does have healing reset. Fires up for another minute.
I can just 2 this from tank for a little bit. They're actually many.
Damn it, dude. Where's the... Careful. Taunting? Yeah.
Nice, good damage.
Really good.
That's for sure. Back up.
I think I'm gonna do damage. I'm talking. Go on. Weakening. Go slow squad. We can take. Raijin, tower. Tower. Watch for Rama TPing in.
I'm with you, Cyclone. You're alright.
Red and back.
You want to, I think T2 mid, yeah.
Raijin
Come here. Come here.
Yeah, coming. Give me that red.
Tank it for.
Raijin Aegis down.
You guys good middle? This might be really awkward.
Yeah, I think you should back up. Raijin no Aegis, and he's back up. We're backing up. Stop.
Can we still do stuff or no? You want to
No,
do
back
stuff?
up. Just back up.
Okay.
Reset.
Get all our buffs. Go to fire.
Full reset. You guys gotta chill, man. This is freelo.
Right.
We saw Allegiance there, and for me, Flashpoint did a very good job. They only lost a tier 2 time on the left-hand side after losing the tier 1s. They didn't lose any real lives in that engagement, though. And what Allegiance's game plan now is go back, get buffs, and then go to the fire again. So, all in all, not bad from Flashpoint to hold that much.
You can hear ALG's game plan as well when Weekend was talking about it. We're just looking for poke. I'm going to taunt someone. If it's a tank, poke and back off. It's a squishy. You should probably do the same.
And the odds of right now, if Weekend lands a taunt, or even PolarBearMike lands a taunt here, he's probably going to get at least 1 purification, and probably, if he hits 2 targets, find a person that's purification is still down.
And that's all you want to do. You just want to throw out these pins, you want to throw out the taunts, you just bait relics. And that's Weekend's game plan. It wasn't just, oh, we're just trying to get into a poke war. It was, we're trying to get their relics.
And who else baits relics as well? The pin, the root cripple combo. You can't sit in place that long. If you do, you're going to have a crush on your face as well.
I mean, yeah, Sick'em, pin, taunt. There's so many purification burners on the side of ALG, and Flashpoint, they can't get into a position where they have to go back and forth with that. They need to find these fights where they can just hard engage, only have that Odin cage out once, pop the ghost, make sure everyone can get in and out of it for free, and then just go for just hardcore initiation with Nemesis diving one of the diving one of the squishies.
Well, there's a bit of a ping once again from PolarBearMike, just looking to poke and try and catch somebody out of position. Weekend on the right hand side going to do the same thing with Taunt, trying to collapse onto them, but CycloneSpin gets engaged on by Shadowq. Shadowq will pop the Phantom to get himself back out, but a couple of crit shots from Oceans on the backside. Hurriwind got caught out alone.
And again, I mean, that goes back to the tier 2. He had no purification. No sanctuary. He just, I think did he get pinned or taunted?
I think he got taunted by Weak because he was over that side and Stealth just cleaned it up.
Sick'em, root crippled, and then crush it. I mean, at this point, I mean, Stealth has a Rod of Tahuti, and it was a Polynomicon proc that probably finished him off.
And now you got Zone G of Cyclone and Weaken, but I'm pretty sure if they can pull somebody in, they will do so. Benji and Shadowq hanging around looking to try and contest, but it's not going to be the case. Allegiance are looking fantastic right now. They took a game already. This could be their second.
And you can see Homiefe trying to get the split push in mid. Weaken just answers that quickly back. The rest of the team rotates to the right-hand side, and without Raijin, it's hard for Flashpoint. I don't think they could kill anyone without Raijin at this point. I mean, Vetium's not going to be doing the same damage as Oceans. Maybe too, right? I mean, he could get a couple crits. He has Wind Demon, but he's not hitting as hard as you would, like for a Ho Yi or someone like this Rom, who's going to be hitting much harder in the late game.
And like I said, Neith with crit, it's not something you see too often. Some people like to go for it, and Vetium just trying to make something happen, I guess, with the crit in the later stages. A couple of lucky crits, kills off a Scylla, whichever hunter you are, whether you're a late game one or not.
The biggest problem for Flashpoint is that Homiefe has been a non-factor in this game. 0, 1, and 7. He's level 19, he's been farming, but every time he's tried to go aggressive, it hasn't resulted in anything.
I put this more down to the composition pick from Allegiance here. This composition has been drafted perfectly. You saw that they weren't even hovering over Odin during the pick and ban phase for a second, but it looks like to me like someone had a brainwave just to add that to the mixture, based off the fact that Flashpoint didn't draft any real escape from the ring.
Odin was the perfect pick. Odin's the pick that just destroyed Flashpoint's composition as a whole.
Flashpoint not realizing that themselves is almost interesting to me as well, because they like to say they're one of the better teams that picks and bans, but they left Odin up and Odin gets picked.
And he doesn't really pick Odin as much as EU or consistently, but if there is one team that's going to do it, it's ALG. I mean, they've brought this pick out repeatedly. Multiple players have. That's the scariest thing about Allegiance is they're very similar to Orbit in that you'll see a god like Athena or Erlang picked up, and that could go to 3 different people, and it's so hard to understand Allegiance's game plan in the first half of the draft because you don't really know what. I don't even think they know what they're intending. They just respond off of what other people pick.
I will give a little bit of credit to Vetium in this game, though, just because of the fact that he has neutralized Oceans' rise to fame in the course of the Super Regionals here, especially after that first game. So kind of nullified that and also made a bit of a better impact than Oceans in terms of getting some kills on the board.
All that matters, though, is that it's a ROM late game.
Winning.
It's a ROM late game at this point. It doesn't, at this point, I mean, you got to stop Oceans, but Oceans really wasn't what Allegiance were trying to run their game plan through. Ocean's job was just do Ocean things in his lane and then rotate to the team fights once late game hits. Sure, if he gets some kills on Vetium, that's great, but you're not going to kill Vetium. He's not that player who plays very aggressively. Fewest deaths, actually.
Torn on Shadowq catches the dash. The root cripple combo is good. To the sky with the snipes, looking for the kill. And there's Oceans coming up with the second shot. Drums of war sounded by Hurriwind.
I'm a
monster. Will get immuned by the sanctuary of Hurriwind. The Phoenix, however, does not stand.
And Cyclone's backing. He does have teleport, so he'll be back in this engagement soon. Benji pushed up by himself. Rooted, knocked up. Couldn't even do anything.
And Oceans goes in again. He gets one and he wants Vetium too. He gets two. He's looking at Hurriwind now. Bird Bomb's going to get impacted and Cyclone gets the kill. Allegiance are going to be flashpoints. The guys who qualify through the gauntlet are looking so damn good from North America.
ALG. I mean, this group is already scary enough with Orbit and Luminosity, but ALG showing everyone that they're the team to really worry about.
They are the surprise package. They are the team that got formed pretty much for Gauntlet for this final shot at going to World Championships. And right now, 2 games under their belt.
Here's the thing about this ALG squad is, you know, when you make new teams or merge teams, there's always this issue of synergy, and we've heard so many people talk about it. It takes months, sometimes half a year, sometimes up to a year to get that very fluid synergy, but these guys have all played with each other. There's really not too much of a mix-up. I mean, Weekend camped Cyclone's lane for a year straight.
Yep.
Stealth played with Weekend for a little bit at the beginning of the year, then again with Allegiance in that second half of the fall split, and then also PolarBearMike and Oceans have been playing together for so long. The only question about synergy was PBM fitting in with Weekend and Stealth, and
the trio
he's done a stellar job. I mean, and now that they have that on board, you have to think too. I mean, you break this down. Oceans is this amazing rookie who has proven he can compete with the best. CycloneSpin is always solid. When Weekend is on characters like Athena, he is one of the better ones. Very similar to Cherio in that playstyle.
Well, they've got themselves off to a great start in the group Allegiance with 2 wins under their belt, but their opposition will only get tougher as this group continues. The analysts are ready to talk us through that game.
Well, what a game it was. We saw Oceans, the man with the plan, Rama rolling in and doing his thing at the end of the game, and CycloneSpin, he added what was just too much for the enemies to handle. Him in the solo lane matchup of Benji just from the start. He set the tone.
Odin is definitely a great matchup against Amaterasu. You can find so much poke on her in the laning phase, and then if you hit level 5, you could potentially find the early first blood. But either way, the way CycloneSpin was playing, he was just all over the map. Normally, Odin starts falling off, but the way Allegiance was playing and utilizing CycloneSpin by making those rotations, catching these 3 gods between the Nemesis, the Guan, and also the Amaterasu, not being able to really get out of the cage, allowed Allegiance to find these easy kills.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a misplay, honestly, early on coming out from Benji, in the sense that he let Odin dictate the pacing of the lane by slipping up early on, finding himself almost getting soloed right there at the start of the game, levels like 3-4 time period. And so that was pretty detrimental for him because it automatically put him behind, is where he had to let Cyclone just decide, I'm going to be the one that's clearing the waves and getting the rotations early on, and you're just going to be left to follow suit.
And then we saw the early fight around the right side mid Harpies where CycloneSpin did make that rotation and found the first blood onto Shadowq. So overall, great rotations from him, and then just relying on all those hits from Stealth with the Ama Monster. I think he had the top player damage of the game there.
He might have, but you know what they had? They had the energy. We talked about this before, and in athletics, in performance, you have to understand there is this key component from what I've experienced that is just momentum. It's just how you feel going into this game. It was clear Flashpoint, they were downtrodden about the results yesterday. I feel Allegiance, they felt on top of the world. They had a win already. They're looking for their second here. This is all they came to do, and now they put themselves in such a good position moving forward. 2-0, the only team to have done that today.
Beating Dignitas, now beating Flashpoint, riding off of that wave of momentum that they had, and also taking advantage of Flashpoint, like you mentioned before, losing to Eager in such a detrimental fashion. So I definitely like the way Allegiance has been playing and basically spread all of their forces across the map, because when we looked at their competition, position, we actually kind of neglected the fact that they could have potentially put Erlang Shen on that support, and that Weekend likes to play Athena in the jungle.
Yeah, they threw us for a bit of a loop there. I guess because we're so accustomed to seeing Weekend on this warrior style that we haven't seen him whip out the Athena jungle in a hot minute, and so it was a bit of a surprise, but a pleasant one at that. He definitely utilized the Athena properly. He made sure to use his ult for the damage mitigation, as well as just the sick rotations to come out to try and help utilize his taunts, so that way Stealth could have, the setup that Stealth loves to have.
And even capitalizing it on being able to camp that soul lane a little bit whenever that CycloneSpin had the advantage, would cage off Benji, even like close to his tower, and then the Athena ultimate would just find that kill that one time around. So great performance by both CycloneSpin and Weekend, setting up Stealth in the late game.
Talk about great, Tolly. I'll give you a great deal.
Oh, yeah?
It's the digital loot pack. That's right. You want to get it? You know what's in there. We don't have to tell you, but we're gonna. Chibi Hades. That's right. You want to get that. The Heroine Amaterasu, the Hero Apollo, Convention 2017, Capri 2017 Ward Skin, Thunder 6 Global Emote, the Recall Skin, a Divine Chest Roll containing a rare esports or convention skin from years past. Just 1,500 gems. That's all you need today. Don't give me a Christmas present. Just get me 1,500 gems so I can go ahead and buy that.
I think I got you.
I already have the skin, though, so don't do that.
Don't worry.
Yeah, give me something else. Actually, give me a present. Anyways, we got a quick break. We'll be right back. Another game coming up soon. The group stage is shaping up. Who's going to make it out? Stay tuned.